Hello, my name is Erzsebet Csibi. I am a higher education accountant manager in Central and Eastern Europe for Pearson, and I'm also a teacher trainer. Today I will talk about what things you might want to consider in this difficult time to move your course online, and we will give specific aids and resources too at the end. For a little housekeeping announcement. If you want to raise your hand, please raise your hand if you can hear me or see me, or if you have any problems, my colleague Agnieszka will take care of you in technical details. Also, if you have any questions in the during the seminar or the webinar, please type your question in the question box. We will try to answer at the end. Time is limited, but I will try to answer a few questions, and whatever I cannot answer, we will put together those questions and answers in a document, and we will share the link under the video in the description. And also we will send these to you who attended the webinar. The recording will be shared on YouTube, so you will get an email from us very soon with the links and extra materials this week. And questions will be also shared with you, and answers will be also shared with you. If you require a certificate, please let us know, because we can send it to you by email. So let's talk a little bit about what we offer at Pearson. We are working on supporting higher education institutions in all fields, from providing lecturer support to course design. And just a little bit of fun, I'm sure you feel very much the same like this person from Matrix. You're trying to juggle with all the tools and everything else, your personal life at this time. So, but before I start, I would like to tell you a story, and it's a personal story. I have a 77-year-old American friend who's a monk, and he lives in a monastery, and he teaches in their prep school. He has many classes a week, and they had to close the school last Monday too, so he didn't have much time to prepare for moving online. And you can imagine that as a monk, he doesn't use a lot of online tools, and he doesn't live in the online space or in the virtual reality. But when I talked to him last Tuesday, one day after the school closed, he was very happy to tell me that he had already conducted his first online class successfully on Monday morning. And ever since then, everything goes very smoothly. He got a lot of support from his students too. And I think that is truly wonderful. And I just told you this story to take courage from that. Now, for the start, I collected some challenges and expectations from teachers and students. These were conducted in an online survey that I made with teachers and students, and I asked them to answer, a few questions, and these are the answers that they came up with. So, for example, I asked, what would you find to be challenging if you had to go online? This was these questions I asked before the school closed. So, and I got these answers like keeping control, motivation, how to engage students, lack of tools for students as well, losing focus from studying, student study skills, are they enough for them to study alone, cheating and trust and quality of materials, and definitely work overload for teachers. I think these are quite normal fears that we are having, and these fears are topped up with the uncertainties and worrying news that we get from all over the world. But please don't forget that health and family is first, so everything comes after that. So let's see what students' expectations were. I asked a couple of university students, what they would expect from their professor in an online course. And most of the answers were very similar. And they said that in some cases, slides and reading articles or the reading materials would be enough for them. But in some cases, for example, in seminars or more practical subjects, they would definitely need some video explanations, or even live stream would be necessary. They mentioned video lectures or podcasts, small bites or small chunks, exercises with solutions, definitely not tests, but those exercises that they can prepare for their exam successfully with. Feedback is very important for them. So whenever you are doing anything, try to prepare some kind of feedback for your students. Also, they need time for preparation, of course. They need consultation, and communication is one of the crucial, most crucial things. So communication with lecturers and classmates, just imagine and remember how they are communicating during normal times. So they sit together to brainstorm ideas, or they sit together to solve problems or have debates and reflect on what they are learning. Now, some of these might look unfamiliar, like the flipped classroom or peer-to-peer learning, but just think about what the way you teach, things you tried out with them. Maybe you already have done this. You just don't know that these are the things that you have done. And I think these are also very normal everyday expectations. Only the platform or the space is different. And we will come back to these expectations in another slide. But just think about how fortunate we live in this age of digital tools. Just imagine that 10 years ago we wouldn't have been able to do all this. Now, my tips for survival. This picture I really like. I'm a teacher. What's your superpower? And I really think we are all superheroes of the day, together with the medical stuff, of course. So before I give my tips, I just would like to mention that Newton had the first breakthrough in his theory of motion and gravity while he was in isolation during the plague in 1665. So just remember this, and who knows, you might come up with something very creative and something very new during this period. So my main tip would be, don't panic. You will be able to cope, definitely. And I'm sure you have already started working on some of the things that you need to do, and you see that you are going to be able to cope. Spend time on planning. We are going to mention planning a lot of times in this webinar because this is something very, very important. Also, keep everything as simple as possible and short as possible. Focus on the most important thing. And about this, I can tell you my experience, my own experience. When this whole craze started in Hungary, there was an announcement on Friday evening, almost 2 weeks ago, that the schools will close. And by Friday midnight, there was a huge debate on social media. And it was actually really wonderful to see how people started communicating and sharing ideas, sharing expertise, and helping each other. That's a really, really positive outcome of this situation. And I was reading materials, articles, tips and hints all Saturday, so just to be able to prepare something good for lecturers. And by Sunday, I was so overwhelmed with all the information that I just thought that my head would explode. So I just thought to myself, okay, now I have to stop. If you get into such a situation that your head is really overloaded, just stop, get some fresh air, make tea, make something that makes you relaxed, maybe paint something or do yoga or whatever you feel like doing, and let your little brain cells do the work for you and put everything in order. And when you come back to work, you will see that it's much easier and much simpler to make an order what you're doing. One step at a time. Always think about the next step. Cooperate with colleagues, talk to them, share expertise and ideas. Maybe they have something that you need and maybe you have something that they need. Use tools that you already know. Don't try to learn something that is very complicated. Start with something that you already know. Trust your students and ask for help from them. They will be ready to help for you, I am sure. And don't worry about making mistakes, because nobody expects you to do the perfect work now. So, and everybody is a human, so everybody makes mistakes. And my most important message for today probably is that you are not building an online course. Don't forget that you only need to deliver your regular course with the help of online tools. Don't let yourself be distracted by reading too much or having too many ideas. If you have any ideas, just write them down and get back to what you were doing. But don't worry about making mistakes, and don't let yourself be distracted. If you are teaching online for the first time, there are some collections of useful practical tips and hints for those. I'm not going to go over everything that is on the slide, because you will get the presentation later. But I just would like to highlight a few things. If you are doing online teaching for the first time and you are having a live stream, for example, with your students, make sure that you keep eye contact and you look into the camera. I had to learn this as well, to look into the camera, because that gives a feeling for the students that you are with them and you are in the present with them. Also, try to keep the audience involved. So if you're asking questions, for example, or you make polls with them, they will need to be engaged and they will need to answer you. Also, check the compatibility of tools before you do anything live. Just try everything that everything works. So, for example, your PowerPoint slides will appear or they don't look distorted, and so on and so on. And most of all, have a plan B. If anything goes wrong, just think about what can happen, and try to keep that in mind and try to prepare for that. So expect the unexpected and remain flexible. So when you're going online, don't worry live. Don't forget that if you are using audio only, you can wear your pajamas. That doesn't matter. But if you are using a video, then try to dress up properly. Of course, this is just for a little bit of fun. So let's talk about planning. The most important part of planning, I think, is also talking to colleagues, sharing information with colleagues, agree on the platforms and tools you are going to use. If you have similar interests, try to create focus groups for different tasks if it's needed. Read articles, watch tutorials, take part in webinars. We are offering lots and lots of webinars. We at Pearson also have some webinars that are coming up as well. On the 31st of March, there will be another very useful webinar, which I can recommend you to take part in. Consider the following things: what you want to teach. You already probably know what you want to teach because you have your syllabus ready, but think also about how you want to teach it, what tools you need, what sort of communication you want to keep with your students? How will you assess your students, and how you can make it as simple as possible? So let's talk a little bit about tools. Now, tools are really important, but they are not the most important thing, I think, and we will talk about that a little bit later. But I think there is a good tip from experts that we should choose the digital platform that we are using and use that in the school. So if your institution has an LMS, a learning management system like Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, try to use that, try to make use of that. There are also publishers' learning management systems, like Pearson has MyLab and Mastering. So if you want to use those, or if you want to see how they work and use that with your students, please let us know. Contact your Pearson representative. We have very good offers and very nice solutions for this difficult time for students and lecturers as well. You can use other publicly available platforms like Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or Zoom, or GoToMeeting, the platform that we are using now. And I know that many companies like Zoom and GoToMeeting have made their platform available for institutions to use for free. So try to look for those information and use those if you would like to. Try to agree with colleagues on the platform. That's I already mentioned, but why I mention it again, because just think about your students, that they have to use platforms, and if everybody is using different platforms, they will go crazy as well. It's just like you would go crazy if you have to, you know, use different platforms for different things. Try to share materials and cooperating with each other. Use only a few tools that you already know or are simple enough to learn in a short time. Don't overdo it. Just step by step, very simple steps. And also try to remember to use tools that your students have easy access to. Just remember that they might not have you know, internet connection all the time, or they can have limited access to technology. They might have a family who uses the laptop or other devices in their family, so they will have the limited access. Ask your students for help, or to recommend platforms like Discord or Twitch that they are using already, and they can teach you how to use that. Now, when I was talking about tools, I mentioned that probably not tools are the first and most important things. When people started talking about, you know, moving online and having to teach online, everybody started with tools, you know, coming up with a list of tools that they can use. But I think, and the experts think, and you know, a lot of not a lot of time had to pass when people realize that actually pedagogy comes before technology. So it should come first, and tools are just a means to get your message through to your students. So once again, try to plan everything. Consider the timetable, the content that you are going to teach. You already have that, I guess. The assessment that you are going to use, and what kind of communication will you use. When we are talking about communication, I have one good advice for you, is to use the educational platform. And we will talk about communication in a minute, but I just would like to mention to avoid personal space. Try to avoid using social media like Facebook or Twitter or such things for communicating with your students, because you need your own personal space. They will need your own personal space as well. You need to think about how you want to deliver the content. Are you going to prepare short videos? And by short videos, I mean just 5 to 15, maximum 15 minutes little videos around different topics. Or are you going to give readings or critical thinking problems to your students? Are you going to make them do research? Are you going to offer consultation hours? So these are the things that this is the time when you can actually think about, you know, creative tasks for your students as well. when you have to work less, but they will need to work a little bit more on their own. Also, try to keep in mind that you only need to search or create your own additional resources if it's necessary, if it's really necessary. Try to keep it as simple as possible. Try to work from what you already have and try to utilize those. And once again, sharing knowledge is very, very important here. Now, what are the fundamental questions and solutions? And if you have a look at this little chart, you will see how these solutions correspond with the expectations of the students that we already talked about. So when you think about how you will teach, you can think about synchronous or asynchronous, like giving lectures online or letting your students work in their own space. Or how will you engage students? Are you going to let them self-directed learning, or you will use discussion forums, maybe small group work? How will you communicate with them? The main three platforms could be email, announcements, and virtual office hours. And how will you assess learning? Assessment comes up very, very early in the online teaching. So I will just suggest a few solutions like discussion forums, group work, and online learning assessments. Engaging students comes up very, very early and very often when we talk about online learning. Now, we collected a few ideas here. Like trying to encourage your learners to formulate investigative questions and maybe come up with their hypothesis and try to prove their hypothesis. Also, you can give them bite-sized assignments and videos to see what works for them. Have them develop a project which incorporates the learning outcomes that you want. Also, you can have them come up with their own critical thinking questions around the content and then provide the answers for each other. You can also use discussion forums very easily, but here remember to have the topic questions open-ended. Don't just ask yes or no questions, but make questions that makes your students think about the answers. And you can set out guidelines for posting in the forum. For example, you can set the number of responses you required from them, or even the word count that you require from them, and also behavior expectations. Share those guidelines with your students and they will know what to do. It will be very clear for them. If you're thinking about small group work, you can, if you're working with a large group of students, you can think about giving a different topic to each group, and they can have their short presentation or video or assessment questions around the topic, and then they can share it with each other. You can use current news, have them find something that corresponds with the content of what they need to learn. Let them create their own assessment questions, put them in a question bank and test them on those. First of all, you will have a nice set of questions. Then this also will make them read and digest what the necessary information that they need to know. And don't forget to help students with their study skills if needed. Give them guidelines about how they should do certain tasks. When we talk about communication, we can mention three main ways. First of all, emails. You probably have a full inbox by now in your email. Now, to avoid those overload of emails from your students, I would definitely recommend to keep the emails only for private matters. And if you want to post something to your students as a group, try to use the announcement board in your learning management system. Most learning management systems have an announcement board, and these announcements can be sent to your students by email as well. At least in MyLab and Mastering, it can be very easily done. So get out those important dates, new assignments, and suggested readings to your students on the announcement board. But try to limit these announcements to 1 to maximum 3 per week, because you can imagine that they are also having some other courses and they have these announcements coming in every single day. Keep these announcements short, sweet, and to the point as much as you can. If you offer virtual office hours for your students, you can think about 2 ways. For example, setting up 1, maximum 3 office hours per week, and keep a virtual video meeting open for them. Just like when you keep your door open in your office and anybody can walk in, here virtually everyone or anyone can walk into your session, and then they can ask questions from you. Or you can have students sign up on a live document for specific time slots with you, and then you can discuss those questions with you one by one. Try not to overdo it. If you have students, for example, in different time zones, you can set up office hours, one in the morning, one in the evening, maybe, just to make sure that everybody can join in. But don't overdo communication. This is what we tend to do at the beginning. Everyone has their other obligations too, and families to worry about. You also have that, so try to keep it as simple and short as possible. Now, when we talk about assessment, we can think of alternative ways of assessment than usually we do. Now, we can think about the time frame, the frequency, the types of assessment that we want to do. And I just would like to mention 2 alternative ways maybe to assess your students throughout the whole semester. So discussion forums, we've already mentioned these. These can be also forms of assessment for questions, for example, and answers they have posted, or sorry, and this method can correspond to your discussion participation guidelines that you give for them. So remember that I told you that it's good to give them guidelines, how many posts you require from them, or the word count that should be made. If you make a rubric for how you will be grading and you share it with your students, it will be very, very useful for them. If you're interested in rubrics, the method of assessing with rubrics, we will share some links and information about that. This can be really useful. Group work. If you consider giving group work for your students, you can use rubrics as well for how you will be grading, but you can also use students or make students assess each other at the end of the project and take their assessment into account when you provide the final project grades. They will be strict with each other, believe me. If they are working together, everybody will know how much work they have put in it, and they will assess each other according to that. If you are using online learning assessment, you can think about using reading quizzes, video questions, maybe tests, or use the learning management systems building test builder. Also, publishers provide test banks for you, and here at Pearson we also have this little program called TestGen that I will mention a little bit later, and you can build tests with those very easily. Use different methods to find out what works for you, and consider the time for correcting papers unless it's an automated test. We collected some useful websites for you, and I would recommend definitely to visit pearson.com. The first page will contain the tips and hints for this particularly difficult time, and these will be updated regularly, so it's worth checking back there. If you scroll down a little bit on the page, you will see tips for higher education lecturers and also for students, so it's worth sharing those tips with them. We have some nice strategies for effective online learning on the next link. Also tips to how to keep learners motivated and engaged. Also, we offer free on-demand webinars, as I mentioned. So if you go to that website, you will see the webinars that we are offering. Also, I found this YouTube channel not very long ago with these tutorials on how to use different tools when you want to use them. A few words about how we can support you at Pearson and what solutions we can offer you. Of course, we have textbooks that come with the courses. So if you are interested as an instructor to get a free exam copy for yourself in an ebook format, please contact your personal Pearson representative, personal Pearson representative, and they will be able to help you. As for students, we also have offers for your students, so please ask us and find out what we can offer for you. I also mentioned tests, and with those textbooks, there are usually in instructors' materials coming together, and most of the time we offer test banks with those resources. And when we have a test bank, we also offer this test generator program, which is very, very easy to use, and you can make tests and practice quizzes for your students with just a few clicks. So if you are interested in using that, you can find more information on our website. You can also find some tutorials. And if you need training, please let us know. Contact your Pearson representative, and we will be able to help you with that. A few words about interactive ebooks. Please remember that the ebooks are not only PDF files. What we offer through VitalSource and also on our platform, our MyLab and Mastering platform, these are interactive ebooks, so you can share notes with your students. They can also take their own notes. They can bookmark pages, highlight text, and so on and so on. So there are lots and lots of extra activities. We also have enhanced ebooks now for selected titles, where students can find embedded tests and videos with which they can study. We also have an offer for libraries, institutional libraries. So if you have any questions about those, please let us know, and we will contact your library. A few words about MyLab and Mastering, our learning management system at Pearson. You might also already be familiar with it. If not, please contact us again. So we will be very happy to show it to you and tell you what the offers right now. Sorry. And just a few highlights of the platform is that it's in functions, it's very similar to other learning management systems. Like you can give assignments to your students, you can upload your own materials into it. But whereas other platforms like Moodle comes empty and you have to fill it up with materials, these will come rich in media and interactive materials already ready-made for you to give it to your students. So you can imagine this platform as a kind of prepared meal for you, and you only have to take out the bites that you want to give to your students. Also, students can use it for self-study. It gives a lot of tutorial possibilities for them, so immediate feedback on their work and tips and hints of what they should learn. It also has an integrated ebook, gradebook, and ebook as well. So you don't need to go to different platforms to read your ebook. And also we have communication tools built within the platform. If you want to read about results and how other people are using it, we have a nice collection of case studies and reports. And for later on, you should know that these can be embedded into different learning management systems that your institution already has. Now, one slide about learning Catalytics, our voting system, or bring your own device classroom response system, as we call it. You are already probably familiar with some of the voting systems, but in comparison with the free but very basic tools, we offer a very simple to use tool which can do 18 different question types. For example, there is a grade book embedded, and also you can use the question bank that has been built by either lecturers or Pearson, and you can share your questions with each other and use each other's questions. Now, when we talk about the 18 different types of questions, I mean that you can share videos with your students, you can make them take pictures and send them to you, you can make them draw, you can make them do numerical exercises, and so on and so on. So it's very, very flexible as well. You can use it for synchronous and asynchronous teaching, and also individual and group work. If you're interested in using this, please let us know, and we will be very happy to share the ideas and the information about this. Now, if you want to find us, we have a Pearson Rep Locator. So if you put in the words into Google, Pearson Rep Locator, this will come up with you. But we will also share some links with you in the slides at the end. So if you want to find us, definitely you will. Please give us suggestions on topics you would like to hear about and you would like to learn. Please check with your personal representative what we can offer for this situation, because we have very good offers for this difficult time. We will also share a survival kit that we collected for you with useful articles and also tools that you can use during this time. Don't forget that we have instructors' resources for you, and we give full support and consultation. So please contact us and let us know what you need. And keep calm and stay healthy. Definitely, that's my last good advice or wish for you. And please don't forget that the greatest asset is the knowledge that you have. You are the superheroes of the time, together with the medical staff and some other workers. So don't forget to act like superheroes, and don't forget that you can do anything you want. Now, as I said, you will find the links in the description under the video on the YouTube channel, and we would appreciate feedback and comments and suggestions from you. So if you have any questions now, please write them in the question box. I will try to answer some of these if there are any questions. And I will also, if I cannot answer everything, we will also share the question and answer document on our website, and the link will be under the video in the description as well. So I will try to read a few questions now. Maybe we have one or two questions to answer, maybe just a couple of minutes, because we have very limited time. So, for example, I find it hard to keep students committed to studying. Now they need to take more responsibility of their learning process. Students don't even show up at the online classes. Yes, this is a very common concern from teachers. We have a very nice collection of tips. Only 5, simple tips on how to engage and keep the motivation for your students. Also, we have a document you can share with your students how they can keep up their motivation. If Yes, somebody told me that they contacted me with on LinkedIn. That's fine. Please contact me on LinkedIn. Find me on there, and I will try to answer your questions there as well. I think our time is up because we only had 40 minutes for this session, unfortunately. I will read all these questions after the presentation, after the webinar, and try to answer each of them in a document. So thank you very, very much for being us with today. Stay healthy, stay safe, and not only you, but your family and beloved. And thank you very much again, and goodbye.